welcome to this Eyes of Harmony podcast review. On this channel, we talk everything old, new, and upcoming Doctor Who. And we're back for a review. We're doing
Yay,
it.
that we are.
Hell yeah. And it's not a Christmas
It's
episode.
not. It's not.
We've managed to slightly organize our lives to manage to
Whoop,
watch 90
whoop.
minutes.
If
and
you're
then
seeing this.
Yeah. Unless it goes into our lost episode archives, like Poor Planet of View. But
Rip. Yeah.
R.I.P. Planet of View. But yes, The War Machines. Final story of season 3. Not series 3, season 3.
That's how you separate them.
You separate the classics from the news. But yeah, so this
But if we have a third reboot, what do we then call series 3
my
there?
God. Sagas. This is Saga 1, Saga...
or chapters.
Chapter could work, but no, we had chapters in flux. That would just fuck it. That'd be too confusing then.
Yeah. But that still is kind of a series, but also kind of
I don't know, epic one. But yeah, so it first broadcast on the 25th of June 1966, and it finished. The final episode was on your birthday.
Yes,
Even
exactly when I was born, because I'm that old.
But yeah, 16th of July 1966, the year that Mr. William Hartnell regenerated, because very much towards the end of his run. But to be honest, I can't really notice any like tiredness in him in this story. I thought he gives pretty damn good performance.
He flubs his lines like throughout. You can't say that any more or less than he did sort of at the start, though. To be fair,
yeah.
Plus,
I mean,
like
he always flub, like, even in the ones he,
Plus, you do kind of notice that, like, he isn't as involved in the action for large parts of it. Like, he does things from behind the scenes, but he's also not like constantly front and center. You know, they give a lot of that to Ben and to the military. You know, a lot of the more actiony. But yeah, so you can tell that they're a bit less. But
you wouldn't notice it if you didn't know. I think. True. I think if you didn't know that, yeah, it was. But
yeah, and the Doctor's presence in this episode in general was sort of a bit interesting in that it just sort of seems to be a part of things. Like, particularly like in that press conference, he just like sort of sleuths in and.
I mean, like, so for context, this was my first ever classic Doctor Who that I watched. This was it. I got a VHS that was given to me by my uncle and auntie, and yeah, it was The War Machines, and it took me way too long to work out who the Doctor was because it was so different, right? So, like, I remember I was mesmerized by the intro.
Yeah.
And it has a very special title card for The War Machines, which is very different and cool. I remember I thought that was very cool when I watched it.
They did this a couple of times at this particular point in the era, because they also had like a thing for 10th Planet as well and such, for like the episode introductions. And I think there was a couple of others, but I couldn't tell you which ones in particular. But they did a couple of these like special episode intros. I don't know why they did, but it's cool that they did.
Yeah, it makes them special, kind of. Like, not much, not really any other reason. It's like the Ambassadors of Death. I love that one. Pew!
Yeah.
Maybe Michael Ferguson had something to do with that, seeing as he directed those two at least. Maybe he was a part of doing that. But yeah, so I remember it took me a while to work out who the Doctor was, because obviously I was used to David Tennant at this point and young-looking doctors, and I just remember it took me a while to like cotton on who was who, I guess, because also it's super weird because Dodo disappears halfway through. She's kind of a companion.
Yeah, I mean,
gone, and then it's a companion introduction. So it was quite a confusing episode for me because I was like, wait, who knows the Doctor here? Who doesn't? Because Annika Wills, she just slides into the role. Yeah. She was so confident and already had loads of character that I felt like she was a pre-established character. I remember just it took me like a couple watches to actually get it, because I watched this quite a few times because it was my only one. I was like, ooh, old Doctor Who, and binged it.
Yeah. Fair,
VHS.
fair.
So I've
Yeah,
still got one. It was one of a few I like kept because obviously I had to make way for my
yeah,
DVDs. But yeah, I've
yeah,
still got
yeah.
the old VHS.
Nice, nice. Yeah, didn't quite have that sort of connection to it exactly. Though I like it wasn't one of the earliest ones I got. Well, it was early-ish, but like there's evidence that at least as long as I've sort of used Chrome, I've wanted to get it because like at the bookmark tool at the top of the page, like I haven't touched that since I was quite young. And on that list of like different icons, there's still an Amazon link to the War Machines just sitting there, and I spelled it wrong as well. I typed in like War Machines or something. Like, it's, yeah. I'm still
There we
not
go.
great at spelling. I could probably do a little bit better than that now, though. But yeah, I don't know how long I've had this copy, but I've still got this copy. It's
We got
signed
the
by Alex
sign.
Wills.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. um,
I like the artwork for it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
really. I think
it's
these
one of the
things,
best ones, honestly. I think
right?
it's always
Like
one that
you,
stuck out to
especially
me.
like yeah. I love that they use the post office
Hmm.
tower, and it was brand new at the time. Like that
Oh
was
yeah,
really
but that was why
great.
they wrote the episode.
It's like yeah, it's almost like when they use the shard in Bells of St. John, right? Like
Hmm.
it's literally same. I'm honestly not surprised if Moffat got inspiration from that, being like, what's new in the country? Oh, that big building that people
Hmm.
recognize. That's a good
Sure.
thing to use. And yeah, I actually, you know what? In hindsight, I really like the Bells of St. John. Like in my memory and just nostalgically, it really like sits there as a really fun episode. Like
Yeah,
it's a
sweet.
bit
Yeah.
like this one. There's nothing crazy deep or anything that
Hmm.
really happens, but it's just fun to sit through. It's just
Yeah,
a good romp of an adventure.
I
And
can see that.
I could see that they would try to push the War Machines to be these Dalek kind of things,
Hmm.
especially at the start. The Doctor's like, I can sense evil,
Yeah.
like when
and
those Dalek fellows are about. Oh,
yeah.
you better be
and,
scared.
and honestly, if that was what they were going for,
They missed.
I do want a remote controlled one, to be honest. But
Oh yeah, like a little War Machine
yeah, a
remote.
little remote control. That's what I was thinking. Was watching it was just like, okay, they're bulky, they're very impractical to be like an actual like proper recurring villain. But I really want a remote controlled war machine. Is what I was thinking throughout it.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah,
a little freaking choppy hand. He's
yeah.
literally an
It'd be like
action.
a, well, it'd
You
be
got
like a Robot Wars robot almost. That's what. I was,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you have like the steam and you got like the hammer. It would be a cool Robot Wars robot. Honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd just be fun. Like, yeah, chop the things. It'd be nice if we just got a cameo of a War Machine, just sat in a corner sometime.
hmm.
You know, just there in the background, like in the
I mean,
Black
it
Archives.
was mentioned at
Yeah.
least.
So the reason why we kind of decided to do this one was because the whole War Machines event was recently referenced in well, at this point in time, the kind of one of the latest episodes of Vanquisher. No, the other
The
one.
one before that. Before.
Survivors of the Flux. I
Yeah,
think it.
I think
That's
so.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one. That one. It was mentioned there, and yeah. So I was like, oh
Yeah.
damn,
As
good
kind of a.
reference, and yeah,
Yeah.
because that kind of was almost the start of Unit. I
Well, it
know, like,
basically was. Like, the style of story. I mean, everybody, of course, says, like, Web of Fear and The Invasion were sort of the precursors to what you got in the John Pertwee era, but I think really the proper origins of that sort of Earth-based sort of horror setting in like modern day Earth does kind of more originate here first and foremost. Although I wouldn't exactly call this like an early run for that, but it was cool how they basically like integrated that. The fact that it was sort of an initial inspiration behind what we'd get later was then tied into the lore as okay, you know, this influenced the formation of Unit, and it's cool. It's cool that they did that, you know, and sort of tied it all together. Yeah,
it deserves it as well because I still think, yeah, it's a solid story.
yeah. I mean,
Nothing to write home about, but
I,
it's
I,
I have a good time watching it.
I'd agree. I mean, I'd say that yeah, it's not like always the best thought out. Like it seems like they had like two very strong ideas. They had like okay, we got the post office tower now built in London. We want to do something with that, and then we want to fight cool robots in London, and like everything in between that feels like it was sort of less important, I suppose. Like they had interesting ideas, but like it not yeah, as I said, there are only two kind of major like elements of it, and like everything else is a little bit more throwaway. Not that it's not enjoyable; it's an enjoyable episode, like from beginning to end. But it's also, yeah, like I said, not every aspect of it is perhaps the best realized, I suppose.
I agree. It's funny watching this. You kind of realize like they don't really do like companions getting hypnotized anymore or anything like that. And it's such an interesting. I always like when they do it. I think the last one I could really remember where they kind of properly used it was almost like when they made the clone in the Sontaran stratagem, Poison Sky. You know, where you actually have a companion play. I just can't really think of one since where it's like mind control. It's just at least of a companion or something like. It's just a really nice way to kind of like put danger right by the side of a doctor. It's like or it's knowing the bomb's under the table kind of thing.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
trope. The danger's there.
yeah.
It doesn't quite realize it yet. Though I mean, Dodo's character could have just
Yeah.
basically like, yeah, once the doctor takes that phone call, which I quite like that they use the phone to try to like hypnotize these to enslave. I thought that was really cool.
Oh
I thought
yeah.
that's using technology in a spooky kind of freaky way, and much like how again using the Wi-Fi in Bells of St. John.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Moffat watched this
There
story.
was influence.
The Bells of St. John, because it's like using modern technology, new building, kind of robots going about London kind of thing, so there was definitely influence there.
I definitely feel sorry for poor Dodo. It was like such a like given that I mean she wasn't perhaps the longest serving or like maybe most memorable companion, but like everyone deserves like a better end than just like, oh, go to the countryside, now she's no longer here, bye bye doctor.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like even reading,
So
I
it's
think
like
the
what was
Wikipedia for it, they don't even mention her leaving. Oh, to explain Dodo. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Better probably meet the Doctor at the TARDIS to explain
yeah.
Dodo decided to stay in London. That's it.
I don't remember the full reason. I think it was wasn't it like a contract reason or something?
I think they just didn't want her. I think it
Or
was really
potential.
hard.
Yeah.
I think they just wanted a different companion, so they just wrote her out of it.
Yeah, but like halfway through like
Yeah,
filming an episode, it's
literally,
like
yeah, they were like,
really
it's clunky, and it's so weird. It's just random, and just like
because
halfway
it's
through the
like
story.
given the way they were setting up Belle and Polly, you would assume that this was thought out from the start that they were gonna
Oh, I think
be,
they knew they wanted those guys, and then
but
they knew that
like the
they got rid of
fact
her.
that Dodo was a non-element basically past episode 2 was just
I mean,
bizarre.
when did Dodo join the massacre?
It was a massacre, yeah,
Yeah.
because like it was her ancestor who was in the massacre, and then like Dodo basically just stumbles onto the TARDIS at the very end of it.
Yeah, then she's just in the ark. Celestial toy maker, gunfighters, savages, then gone. Oof.
Yeah,
And then into a new era. And
yeah,
the smugglers, then the 10th planet. Bloody hell. Really is right next to right at the end,
right,
really.
right at the end, yeah.
I love smugglers, but I mean, it sounds like we're not going to get any more animations after
Probably
the.
not. Well, we not for a while. Like I don't think like we're done. Like for any sort of reconstructions or release. Like if nothing else, like A as potential BritBox content, and 2 for those big Blu-ray sets. I think they're gonna want something to fill in those gaps. I think that's part of the reason why we haven't really seen any pre-John Pertwee box sets for the Blu-rays released yet. It's just because they want complete series to
Yeah,
release. Um,
yeah.
and potentially this might have scuppered the plans partially, or whether that was always the plan. I couldn't possibly say, but I think eventually we'll get versions of every episode. It might take decades, but I think eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, like, it'd be nice to like if it could just be like the fans could pay for it because I'm sure they'd
Well, there have
fans
been
would.
attempts, and I mean, of course, we had for reconstructions, and we've had like individual episodes occasionally, like done by fans and such. But yeah. But speaking of, it's very lucky that we have this episode as complete as it is, despite even like little sections being missing. So like the whole like death of the old man was like a part of the episode, but censors cut it and they never recovered that bit of footage. Whereas other scenes, like the war machine being tested, which if you look at the episode is actually in lower quality than the rest of it, was just found separately and was able to just be slotted in. But of course, being a lower quality print, you know, it does show up that, oh goodness, this looks really different to what I was seeing just before. But it's having the episode as complete as it is actually kind of, you know, a miracle given, I think, yeah, like I said, I think this one was kind of hacked to pieces by the censors. So like having it as complete as it is, and it's good quality as it is, because like some bits of footage I was shocked at how like well preserved it was, honestly. Like particularly the outside shots with the war machines were clean for, you know.
Yeah, I really love the shot with the bike, and it's like the puddle, and it's just the bike's just the
Mm,
wheels just spinning, and then you just see the
mm,
shadow in like this puddle, like
mm,
really artistic for like Doctor
yeah,
Who, and it takes bloody. It wasn't easy to maneuver those things,
mm,
so I really appreciate the kind of quite artistic, um, kind of direction for it. I find it it's annoying though. The track didn't move very well on the war machine, so it
mm.
kind of it's like it's supposed to look like this tank, which it wouldn't work if you had just a track in the middle. But anyway,
The paddle, yeah.
yeah, it's like it doesn't move, so it just looks a bit weird when it doesn't. But yeah, I thought that scene of it, invading down the streets, it looks great. Like it
Yeah.
just, do you know what? Actually, though, cutting the old man being killed, I think works far more sinisterly. Like
Mm,
I find it pretty sinister that you don't see what happens. He runs around that corner, then you just hear him cry. Then he's like, "Now
yeah.
get back to work."
I mean, it would have been interesting to see because I imagine it would have been quite a brutal. I mean, comparably to in the Time Meddler, because like there's another scene cut from that, which is basically them beating the Vikings to death, and it's like it would have been interesting to see exactly just what they had in mind for that, but you know, it is what it is. And yeah, like you say, it's not the worst. It's not. It works. It works here well enough. It works here well enough.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. This is the last full William Hartnell story, like that exists
Mm.
in archives, almost.
Yeah. Well, almost complete. Yeah. um.
um, but yeah, I guess though. I mean, the rumors at the minute is they have found some, but they don't have them in like, so they know where some are,
It's
but they
just
don't have it in their
yeah.
possession,
It's
and
in
it's
a
trying to
very tricky situation in order to potentially to get
retrieve.
those
They're
returned.
using it for political kind of reasons, not just they don't want the money. Obviously, money would have been offered.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to get anything, but it's like, yeah,
It's
it's
going to
trying
be
to like.
tough whether or not we'll see these again or not. You know, those or not.
I
Yeah.
really, I don't know who I hope for actually. If there are some more, I'd love more Troughton, but I
Of
feel like
course.
William Hartnell would just be so epic to get
Mm.
some of those,
Yeah.
especially from season 3, or if we're super lucky, any of Marco Polo would be
Marco
dope.
Polo.
That would be the dream. I think
Yeah.
Marco Polo or like 10th Planet
Yeah.
episode
Well, I
4.
mean, especially any of the episodes we don't actually have any footage of periods, which is Marco Polo and I think the Myth Makers. I think was the other one, which
Yes,
literally no footage exists. Period. And the I guess Mission to the Unknown, but Mission to the Unknown
there's
is
been
it?
such
Well,
reconstruction. You've basically got it
there's
almost.
that, and the fact that it is only one episode. Like it doesn't like
Yeah,
that's two whole stories with no footage remaining of it, compared to just one
25
individual
minutes.
part of a
It's
potential.
a prequel really to Master Plan.
Well, it is. It's basically just like the 13th episode of Master Plan. But yeah. Anyway,
With
Doctor
The Feast of Stephen. That's what we
Yeah,
want.
heck
Uh,
yeah.
But yeah, so my biggest issue is like Wotan, just in general.
Hmm.
With this, like, okay, supercomputer, but why is it like what? I get it's super smart, but why has it made this
Well,
decision? You know,
it's
why it it never feels like tangible enough
yeah.
for me
Well,
to really like.
it's the same as most like robot takeover stories. Is that the robot logically decided that like it was far more advanced than humanity, and that by wiping out human life, the most efficient way to proceed with humanity is for there to be no humans. Basically, say again, it's very proto like Terminator and all
Yeah,
the other like examples, like very very early, where you can tell that they don't entirely have like again because this is very early computers, they don't entirely have a grasp of how realistically a lot of this would work. It's just like how do they take over the world? Oh, mind control, wavy things, and the
yeah.
mines they go
I feel like
boom.
I feel like a smart would computer would build a body for itself, a bit
Hmm.
like Ex
Well, that was
Machina. You know,
part of what they were doing for the war machines themselves, I
yeah,
guess, was that he was sort of
it was
going
so
to infect them and infect the other computers and infect some people and basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think that's where this story falls short. There's just no
Hmm.
personality with the
Yeah.
villain.
Yeah, they
Like the one,
actually did a much better. Like, I'd bring up the computer in the Green Death was like a step above, like a properly good realized version of this.
yeah,
Really, I feel like.
yeah. I think the name's very cool, Wotan, and
Yeah,
yeah.
Wotan's cool.
It's
Like a
got
logo and such. It
yeah
has.
logo. I love the design of the war machines. Like it makes sense, they're tanks, right? But I just feel like a smart computer would do like what the Idiot's Lantern, in the Idiot's Lantern where she goes into the little portable TV and then
Hmm.
she's moving about for safety, or she's just stuck in the shop kind of thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like there's just it's like it's on the cusp of greatness. I think it just
Hmm.
probably needed a couple like enough a month to tweak the script, I guess, and really get it
Yeah.
right. I think this one feels quite big though. Like you
Yeah.
can tell a lot isn't on sets, and even if they built a set for the warehouse, it's a really nice big set
Hmm.
that has a lot of space. I did find it quite funny though how like the old man just runs around the fucking warehouse, and these
Yeah.
guys just stand next to him. They don't grab him or anything. They chase him and stand there, wait for him to say his lines, and then he runs again. And they're like, "Oh no, come back here!"
Hmm.
So I always find that a bit more funny than sinister. But
Hmm.
yeah, they did try and do the Dalek shot though with Ben, didn't they? With the war machine coming at him behind
Closing in. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the POV. I
Yeah.
bet they were like, "Let's do the Dalek. Let's do that one
Yeah.
with it towards him and the light." Uh,
Yeah.
I I like the
Just.
spotlight though. That made it extra a bit like kind of almost
Hmm. Yeah.
sinister.
And I guess we should say a bit more about like Ben and Polly are great in this.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah, like like if nothing else, this episode does their introductions like solidly and makes you like them quite quickly. Like they're not given, well, maybe especially like Polly's just there initially. You don't even see her face like right off the bat until basically you get to the nightclub. Um,
yeah. She's kind of a secretary, and that's it. But that's the kind of thing. That's the
but
kind
yeah,
of that what makes it
like
interesting. That it's just generic person. It's not some
exactly.
amazing super scientist. It's just secretary comes along
Yeah,
for the ride, and
and
a sailor who's been left behind. Which I love that.
yeah.
That's a really like that could work for like modern Who.
Hmm.
Like a sailor who's just been
Yeah, I
left.
imagine it'd be a bit more dramatic in Modern
Yeah, yeah,
Who.
of course.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
not that Ben doesn't have, because he's just sort of sat at the bar, then he's sort of mocked, and then he's okay, and then he like punches a guy.
yeah. It's really weird for Doctor Who. It's very Coronation
Well,
Street,
again,
really.
it's trying to feel very like of the times, It's
Yeah,
trying to sort of
feel real.
yeah, it successfully feels quite like a '60s nightclub sort of vibe, a young people sort of vibe, which is what they were kind of going for. At least as far as what I can tell, a 1960s young person vibe would feel like. Not that I've ever been to the 1960s or a 1960s nightclub and felt the vibe at a 1960s nightclub, but From what I can tell, it could kind of. It matches my vision of it. I guess is the way I was going to put it.
Yes, very dead. That's the vision. It was such a dead club. It was
Eh.
so fun. But
Inferno, no, but Inferno is the hippest place in town.
oh, shit, it's the hippest place in London town. Oh,
Yeah.
can't believe one of the working titles for this. I'm so glad they chose a War Machine because one of the working titles was the computers, which sounds so dull compared
Yeah.
to the War Machines.
Yeah.
Uh, God, that would have been terrible. Like that would have looked so bad on the
Oh
shelf.
no, the
Oh
computers are
no, the
coming. Well, I mean, to
computers.
be fair,
Oh,
like in
okay.
that time period, it might have made a bit more sense
Yeah,
to have, like, the computers were new, scary things. Oh no, if they could process information, could they have a mind? Could they do this? And so, like, a title like the computers could have made a bit more sense there. But to us now, that very much sounds like, oh goodness, my Intel's gonna come up and strangle me with a mouse or
oh no,
something.
my keyboard has frozen.
The blue
Task,
screen of death. Blue
the,
screen's your
yeah,
brain.
the doctor just opens up Task Manager and forces everything to close. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. That would be it. But yeah, so they only built one of the war machines, and they just changed the number on the front, which makes sense.
Yeah, they're big, bulky things. You wouldn't want to make like tons of those, right?
So
And
yeah, I mean, the big thing in this story, though, which you definitely notice, is referring to the Doctor as Doctor
Doctor
Who.
Who. Doctor Who is
Which is-
required.
When the machine says it, it's okay because you could kind of put in a comma like
Yeah,
Doctor.
Doctor Who is required. I mean,
Yeah,
to be fair, you could say from the computer saying that, the humans might have misinterpreted it and gone, okay, his name is Doctor Who
Doctor
because the
Who
computer
is
said Doctor
required.
Who. But
It's,
yeah.
yeah. So when the computer says it, it's like I could be like I can get away with it, but like the humans are like, yeah, Doctor Who is required. Like, oh no, it just sounds like
Hmm,
any TV show
yeah.
presenter who always goes, you know, like when they're interviewing the new Doctor about, oh, so you're the new Doctor Who. It's like, no, it's just say you're the new Doctor in Doctor Who. Like, it's like his last name is not Who. Can we please? Ah, Jesus.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, that sticks out
yeah.
basically, and it always makes me slightly cringe. But
Hmm.
that there we go. I remember as a kid, I was like, no. I
It's
say kid.
wrong. You're wrong.
You're wrong. I'm going to write a long, extensive letter to the BBC. Please edit this. It's already
Yeah.
been episodes 2 and 3 and 4 have been cut to shit already. Change it. Change it.
Yeah. And I'd also say, like, the whole battle sequence in the warehouse, half the time I didn't know what was going on, to be honest. Like, just the way it was cutting about and shot, I was like a little lost. It's just like, okay, are these people leaving? But now we're back here, and where are they going? Where is this? I was admittedly, like, I was noticing, I was just watching it, just like, okay, I know
Maybe
people are dying.
maybe they wanted panic. Maybe that was why they just
I
went for the
guess, yeah.
go confusing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia for this story, and I
Same.
really like the vibe. It
Hmm.
feels very unique. It feels very because like the first Doctor's era
Yeah.
has two very separate parts. There's a bit like Peter Capaldi's era.
Hmm.
It's very like every season of the Capaldi era is so different
Hmm.
that it's kind of like it's weird. But then something like Patrick Troughton, I'd say maybe his first few stories are very different, but then I'd
Hmm.
say like 5 and 6 are very similar. Like
Yeah.
there's still the same time, and like
Yeah.
Pertwee's is very much the same, and
Yeah.
you know. But like the William Hartnell era has it's like really like definitive. It's like there's
Hmm.
there's like series one and well season one and then kind of season two. There's kind of the Barbara and Ian era.
Hmm.
Then after that, it just goes completely different. Even like
Yeah.
the next story, the Time Meddler, is so different. It's
Hmm.
kind of crazy how much it just changed
Hmm.
like in that week between Barbara and Ian kind of leaving. But even like series one is even that's very so like traditional Doctor Who with the history
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the real educational kind of value in
Yeah.
there. and then like the second series goes a bit more. But yeah, so this one also feels again so like different. Like
yeah, it
I feel
doesn't.
like most of season 3 does that. Like every single one is just so different to the last one. There doesn't
True.
feel like there's ever like a constant tone. I think
No.
like it always feels like the tone is changing constantly in
Yeah.
like every single story that happens in season 3, from what I can tell.
Like they can't quite
You know, you
seem
got
to.
the arc and
Yeah. I know, I was going
yeah,
to say, can't quite seem to settle down. This to me always felt much more like a Patrick Troughton episode. Again,
yes,
like very invasion. It like tonally, like not only in terms of how it just looks and the location stuff, but like in terms of just the vibes and the general like yeah, even parts of the plot, like it feels very much like the invasion. If nothing else.
yeah. I think and this is the thing. Is it this story is like a Patrick Troughton, or maybe just all of Patrick Troughtons are like
Was
William
inspired.
Hartnell?
Yeah.
He's the original Doctor.
God.
Everyone else after the first Doctor is fake. Doctor Who died in 1966. That's it. That's when the series ended. Every
Oh
other
God.
Doctor after that is fake. Liars.
I mean, that's what people initially thought when Patrick Troughton took the role.
Yep.
There was a
Uh,
mass campaign. Trying to
yeah.
get yeah.
But I mean, the
So,
show would have died if it hadn't have done it.
exactly.
Which would have
Like
been sad.
Hartnell might have like lasted to the end of that series, but
Like, so yeah, series 4 maybe just.
yeah,
Though it
but
was pretty intense that series. It
yeah,
would
I
have been
know.
a big battle with the Daleks. He would have just flown off. I think that's how it would have ended.
Probably something like that. Something like that.
I wish they'd returned to the 60s in the new era, like properly, like full story set there.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool. Yeah,
I
because
love.
we.
Yeah, oh, didn't he use the out of order sign in "Husbands of River Song"? Isn't it the same sign that he uses? Because he puts it on the.
Possibly.
I think
Trying to
that
remember.
was a
Maybe.
callback.
Maybe. Yeah.
Let me check. Because yeah, I love that one. I think they did do it. Yes, it's exactly the same. Yeah, out of order.
That's
That's
cool.
so cute. What a cute little Easter egg.
Yeah. Now we just
Love.
need to return the food machine.
Yeah, I feel like things like something like Wotan could be like. I mean, it's probably too long now, and
Yeah.
you'd have to do something else. But I feel like you could almost have an Ultron-esque character. This kind of technology character that manages to, show up now and then and be this kind of like just a different type of threat. But I guess the issue when you have a sonic screwdriver. But I guess it could just that's how it could get around it. Like it could, do code that disables the
Yeah.
sonic, and
Well,
actually
yeah, you could just have like Wotan evolve into a virus, basically.
yeah,
Just
and
be
it'd be
like a
interesting.
constant threat on the internet.
Yeah, and like it just shows up here and there doing different because we haven't really had any kind of threats like that for a while. We had Bells of St. John, which was somewhat like that kind of
Yeah.
the spoonheads, which I'm scared in design, but we moved.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like it would be cool if you had something like almost like an Ultron type, just this computer, because it could set up different things, right? It's got figures and
Yeah.
numbers, and it'd be interesting as to
Yeah.
just adding more of a character. Why is it doing this? Because you can do the classic, oh yeah, Terminator, just all out
Yeah.
destruction, easy.
Yeah. True.
But if there was something else, or maybe it wants to escape Earth, maybe it wants to go somewhere else, so it's trying to latch onto like the
Because
TARDIS or something.
that's where logically it'd be best to go or something. Yeah.
Right?
Could
Yeah,
be.
like
Yeah.
Earth is shit, but I've calculated that there's definitely life out there.
Yeah.
Take me to it,
Yeah.
and it could almost be building a rocket to then go to a different planet. But
Yeah.
to get, I just feel like sometimes we need a bit more of those kind
Yeah.
of camp kind of story.
True.
So, see, Russell T always had a great formula. He'd have the kind of more camp, crazy fun stories at the start of the series, and then as the series went on, that's where it got more dark and serious. You didn't have
Usually.
any fun. campy romp ones towards the end.
I mean, you had like a Love and Monsters toward the end of the series.
I mean, that was a huge competition thing, wasn't it? And actually, I still think Love and Monsters is actually pretty dark.
It is, but it's not treated for the most part as super. It's treated generally pretty comedically, like most of the time.
I don't know. I feel like there's nice. I feel like they have the nice, but it almost it kind of counters it, right? It's because it becomes so sad.
It sort of strays into almost a dark comedy, but like, you know, even with her like the girlfriend's head being, you know, in a pavement, they then use that as an opportunity to make a sex joke about it. So you know, they're not exactly treating it with like.
That still makes me feel like kind of sick when they do that. So it's just like. No, I remember as a kid that made me feel really sick.
I
got he was like dating a slab of concrete, and I was like, concrete's fucking dirty, man. And it's like, it just
you can clean it.
It was like, I prefer to be dead. I think generally, like, does she die? Like, what the fuck happens? Does she just live forever as a fucking slab of concrete? Terrifying. Terrifying.
We're not talking about that episode, right?
It is not a happy ending.
No, but it's not treated seriously. Actually, speaking of endings, I was just going to point this out, but like the cliffhanger at the end of every episode is different to the scene at the beginning of the next episode, pretty consistently throughout this episode. Like, I noticed it. Like, so you got the cool shot of the close up of the Doctor, where like all the army people jump behind, like to the back behind the cover, and then you see the next week's one, and he's standing there in a different pose where they didn't all jump behind cover, and they're all like standing behind him awkwardly. Or the Ben one, where like he mentioned the approach. The approach happens and he's sort of pushed into the corner, whereas the beginning of next week's he's not pushed entirely into the corner and he has space to jump out and run away. You know?
It's alternative universes. It's actually like, this is multiverse of madness. Each one is set in a slightly different universe.
So that cliffhanger of just like the Doctor standing there is
great shot, right?
Yeah.
That's one of his iconic shots, actually. That one where he's just standing there. I know people.
And this you're like even like when the next episode happens, you're confused about exactly what happened there. I mean, the doctor pointed out, oh yeah, it just wasn't finished and the code was done. But how did he know that in that moment? I don't quite understand.
Good old Camp Doctor Who.
Yeah.
What we like. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all my thoughts on it. I have a good time, but there's like, yeah, I feel like if the villain had just been a bit more reason, a bit more to it, like it would really stick out to me more. But I still, for nostalgic purposes of it being my, one of my first VHSs, I really do have a soft spot. And the DVD cover's fucking awesome. Dope artwork. Big shout out to the guy who designed that. Awesome. There we go. There's Comrade 7. If you call the number at the bottom of the screen, you can pick up your War Machine, or however you spell it on Amazon.
Yeah.
I keep always like doing machines. I always add an R into machines. I don't know why. When I type quickly, I do MARCH. I always notice it, like machines. It's the War Machines. Kind of dyslexic. But yeah, and Doctor Who went off the air for a couple of months. What was it? Finished July, then we had August off. Yeah, literally like 2 months, and it's back already. 10th of September.
It was intense back then.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal as fuck.
Yeah. I'd also quickly just say that it was nice to see the first Doctor doing some very techie stuff, because for the most part, sort of strayed away from that beyond, I guess, generally navigating the TARDIS.
Yeah. It's kind of. I love how he just like shows up at the post office there, and everyone's like, "Oh, hey!"
Yeah, he's smart. Well, that was exactly the point I was making earlier. Was that he just sort of is a part of it, and nobody really seems to question it. He's just there.
Yeah. Oh no, he used the he uses the out of order sign on the TARDIS in the pilot series 10.
Oh, okay, I see.
Where he used it in the Husbands of River. Maybe he didn't.
I don't remember.
Oh no, he used carolers will be criticised. That's what he has.
Oh, okay. But the same sort of idea. So,
Yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, pilot they actually
yeah.
used it. There we go.
But yeah, ultimately, yeah, I too, I'm rather fond of this one. It's a fun watch. It's flawed and probably, needed, as you say, like a extra month, maybe 2 months in the oven before, some things need a bit of maybe rethinking, and there are certain issues with the episode. But despite all the nitpicks and things I said throughout it, I do still love it. Like it's not for like any sort of like it's not the best of Hartnell's era. It's not like a standout example of Doctor Who necessarily, but it is one that I personally have a lot of fondness towards. Again, I don't remember how early I got it, but it wasn't. It was relatively ish early on. I don't quite. I got it, but like not early. So it's one that I have watched like a few times at this point. On the way, and like I said, I can easily watch it. I can easily, at any point and still have a good time with it. There are certainly a lot of things to like about it. It just, in certain aspects wasn't the best thought out in the world, but that doesn't mean it was any less fun to watch. So that's ultimately sort of where I lie on it. Fun watch, but don't expect anything to blow your mind unless you
Yeah,
unless you pick up the phone.
yeah. Then you're gonna have a lot. But yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I agree. It is pretty much. It's just a fun romp. It's one you'll have a good time with. I think
Yeah.
there's enough in it to have a good time, enjoy it, see some good directing. And camera choices, especially when like they're invading. There's some really nice artsy stuff where when they had the opportunity to do it, you could see directors really went wild. Their kind of more artsy stuff. That's why, like in the invasion, when Cybermen are coming out the droids and stuff, we have always that like epic shot. They always have a few money shots. Which is really nice. I mean, this is the day that all the stuff happened. The faceless ones happens on this day as well, because like the second Doctor returns them on the day that Ben and Polly left,
Same
didn't they?
day.
And then the Daleks are nearby, so fucking hell. July 1966, dodge it, costs.
If you're time traveling, don't do that.
So yeah, dodge that. Though actually, in reality, do go back and then record the 10th Planet, episode 4.
Please.
Do you know, it's so sad. That is literally what I'd do if I had a time machine. I would go back and record all the missing episodes.
No, I just like set up like a monitor and then like make sure the signal and just like a capture device and just like have it run throughout the entirety of the 1960s and just like into the 70s and just like have it,
Yeah, all that information. Because it'd be great because you could bring it to modern day. Just be like, oh yeah, found this. I think people would question it too hard if you're like, I've got this. People, if you just
there was a secret monitoring station which was like recording stuff throughout the 1960s. Because
and
Cold War, that's it.
Yeah.
It was for Cold War investigation, and now I've got all of this.
Yeah, and it was all just
I took this off Russian spies in the 1980s.
Well, I don't think you managed to, but you could argue like
Okay, yeah, roll it back. I didn't, but I knew somebody who took it off.
Right? It's like something that wouldn't disrupt the flow of time at all. If you're just recording these things, like it would do no damage to the timeline.
Yeah.
It would just, do.
I can finally get the missing old man being beaten to death. This is what we always wanted.
Forget episode 4 of the 10th Planet. I want the old man to be killed on screen. Be like Doctor Who royalty. I mean, that Star Wars ones there as well. They're missing so much, but yeah, that's what I do with the time machine, honestly, because it's also like the further you go back, it's all good going to ancient Rome, but unless you have a translation device like the TARDIS being able to help you understand everything, then you're pretty fucked.
Well, I mean, you'd be able to watch events you know, potentially. It depends. If you're stuck there, sure. If you're just able to jump about like the TARDIS, then, you know, just sitting back and watching like
I don't know,
historical
you need,
events
like,
in action.
and if someone tries to talk to you, yeah, I guess if you're from a distance, it's like you can watch a battle from very far away.
Watch a battle, sit the Roman Colosseum, you know, something like that.
Yeah, I suppose. But it's like having to get in. Even you'd have to speak fucking Latin and have for money, right? Like this is all this.
You land in the bathroom.
Ah, right, yeah, okay. At the stadium, at the Coliseum. Here we go. But yeah, that's what I do. It's just a safe one. You know, I'd be able to move around in the 1960s without drawing too much attention.
Except your clothes.
Except my clothes. But I could find, right? I could go and find some old clothes in modern day. Like, it wouldn't be too difficult to go back in time, you know, then. And yeah, it'd just be how I just listen and learn, you know. But yeah, just buy a setup. Boom. Easy. You just have to find some old money. Or just make a lot of fake money that looks like it. So was it? It was. I mean, it was all shillings and everything back then. This is spiraled off. War Machine's good. That's not review. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. That's good. I'd say
6.5 maybe. You know.
Yeah. On the good side of things. I'm not like I think it's solid. And it doesn't mean it's bad, right? It's like 5 is pretty. It's like good. That's
it's average.
So it's I'd say just a bit. Like it's fun. I get a lot of fun
6
out
is
of
a bit above average.
I say 6 is like that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Cool. What did you guys think of the War Machines?
What did you think about this?
What do you think about it? Yes. Yeah. Comment below what you thought about the War Machines. You probably thought it's just as okay as us. But
maybe
if you
liked it more. Maybe you liked it less.
Maybe you want to see an old man get murdered on camera like we should have.
Yeah.
Silly, was it in Nigeria they found it? I think it was in Nigeria. Yeah.
I don't remember.
They were returned from Nigeria.
Okay.
In late 1978, a collector in Australia provided a copy of episode 2. Later in 1984, copies of all 4 episodes were returned from Nigeria. But episodes 2, 3, and 4 had cuts from. But obviously, they had all the 2 from Australia.
Yeah, they got the censor cuts, which were mostly like intact.
Cool. Well, there we go. So we'll never see that old man die. What a shame. They should animate it. I want them to put money into this. I want the special edition War Machines. But yeah, I'd love if we found some more episodes. It's been too long since the last, literally almost a decade. So fingers crossed that those negotiations are going well.
Yep.
And maybe we'll see them next year in the 60th year, which would be such great timing again.
Absolutely.
So there we go.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah.
Just a review. There we go. We talked about an episode.
We did.
So there, yeah. We'll see you next time, guys. When the next time will be, who knows? See you then. Who knows? Who knows? Catch you later, guys. Bye. I just got a call. It's saying Wotan.
Oh no.
Oh shit. Boy, we're gonna murder the human race because.
Oh, I better laugh.